Hi, good evening, everyone. This is your host, Alamjeet Flora from the Wednesday Talk Show, brought to you by Pothos Events Sweden. We have been hosting the show and we enjoy bringing different topics to you every week. And today is yet another very interesting topic on brand creation. Branding, advertising has been, for ages around, but suddenly there's a big hype about what your brand should be. The brand is not only related to a company or a product, but also personal branding has become very famous now. As far as we know, even in India, political parties, sorry, are using branding to form their image and get those votes. Be ready next year, India. So, we are going to have with us today a lovely, lovely guest who's joining us all the way from Mumbai, India. And she is Gunjan Pai. Gunjan has worked with many, many companies in India in advertising and branding field. She has her own company. She's the founder of Copylove. She also is a TEDx speaker, and you must go and watch her video, which is very inspiring. So let's bring her on and talk to her more. I'm sure you're going to learn so much to create your own brand today. So let's welcome Gunjan Pai with us today. Hi, Gunjan. Welcome to the Wednesday Talk Show.
Hi, Alamjeet. Thank you
Hi.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for making it on a short notice to change this timing also, that our guests will know now that it happened. but
Not at all. My pleasure entirely.
Yeah, thank you. So, Gunjan, of course, I know you're an alumni of our symbiosis, and so proud of that. So proud of the achievements that you have, had in your life. But I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience and also speak about your baby, your company, Copylove.
With pleasure, Alamjeet, with pleasure. So, since we have the symbiosis piece in common, I would love to start a little before. So, I belong to Uttarakhand, right? Nainital is my native, but I've primarily been born and brought up in the east side of India, which is
Ah,
West Bengal, Assam, and mostly Kolkata, right?
okay.
I took my graduation over there in Calcutta. A passion for all things advertising and copywriting brought me to Pune Symbiosis, where fortunately I got through the Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. From there, I was placed in Mumbai. That was my dream city really to come, because technically coming from smaller towns, and
Yeah,
the whole aspiration, you want to check out what this Mumbai thing is all
of
about,
course.
and I took to it instantly. I think it's been 21 years now of living in this city, and I
Wow.
completely love it. It's my karm bhumi. But rewind to 21 years back, and essentially I got through to Ogilvy, which was a leading ad agency, continues to be a leading ad
Yes,
agency. I
amazing.
worked I worked on key brands at that time, but on the digital side of it, which was so nascent at that stage. So it really helped me get a very early knowledge about how the digital media works and stuff like that. I worked at the time when Orange was transitioning to Hutch to Vodafone and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Okay.
Post that, I also worked for a few years at Lintas, where I was working on key Unilever brands and certain financial brands and stuff like that. However, I wished to have a more efficient and a more optimal lifestyle. Technically in Mumbai with the travels, it gets a lot. And
Yeah.
which is when I thought that I should also start something independently. Right. Fortunately, our line of work, essentially the idea also came to me when I used to travel in trains. A lot of freelance work I would knock off through the phone. I'm sending
Yeah.
headlines to clients, leaflet copies, etc. And I was like, if I can do this in the train, surely I can do it from home. And
Yeah.
so I started the whole idea of remote working really many years ago, 13, 14 years ago, right?
Okay. Wow.
That's when I started working. Yeah, fortunately I got good response in terms of both clients as well as certain mentees that started working with me, and a good 7 years of doing that as well. So total of
Mhm.
14 years of my working later, I decided to, kind of consolidate the whole offering and share something larger with the industry. And
Yeah.
that's when I started Copylove in 2015
Okay.
as a lean principled company, really. So we are a lean team. We work remotely. And our specialization is also very lean, highly niched into copy and content, right? However, with the twist of branding, that's the differentiator that we really bring in. Different from any other content company which might put pen to paper the moment you receive a brief. Ours is very purposeful and very branding led copy with the intent to help every client create an everlasting sort of relationship with their audience every time a piece
Yeah.
of communication goes out. That's the idea. A little more about Copylove. We are industry agnostic, we are format agnostic, and we are also medium agnostic. That's primarily how we work. We work across different types of companies, right from your larger MNCs to
Mm-hmm.
mid-sized MSMEs, and also startup entrepreneurs, who need direction and good communication to reach out to their audience. A little
Yeah.
small trivia that I always like to end our introduction with is that as an animal lover,
Oh,
we contribute 1% of every invoice that we raise at a voluntary level to
wow.
animal welfare organizations that work for the welfare of street animals. Right. So
Good.
yeah, that's a
Very
little.
nice. Good thought. And I think that's very captivating that you're doing this social cause along
Yeah.
with your business also. Yeah, and good. I'm sure the industry that you're helping out, everyone knows how to run a business, but creating a brand is a whole next level of expertise that not everyone has. And that's when professionals like you step in and give them that edge, uh, you know over their customers and competitors. So we are talking about brand creation, and our audience may wonder what this is exactly. Not everyone is from this field. They
Hmm.
do see a lot of advertising, they see a lot of influencers promoting, and a lot of money spent on this. But what exactly, from your perspective, is brand creation?
Yes, absolutely. So today, as you said, more than ever, is this more and more, getting more and more relevant.
Yeah.
Uh, Essentially, also because post COVID, there has been a wave of people who are launching, really
Yeah.
bringing out their passions to the fore, and really creating something for the world out of them. Right.
Right.
Very simply put, a brand is a way to tell your audience about who you are, right?
Mm.
Because you are not here to just talk about your product and what your product does, right?
Yeah.
What we are really here for is to build long lasting connections with our audiences, so that people continue to not only remember us once, like us once, but continue to like us and build a relationship with us, right?
Yes.
So in
Yes.
many ways, I like to say that a brand is an emotion. A brand is a
Mm.
perception that you're creating around your brand, around your
Yeah.
product or service, right? So you
Right.
may patent something, you may create a unique product, you may create a unique service, but till the time it's not perceived the correct way, it's not perceived in a way that people continue to recall it time and time again, it does not become a brand. So that's really the process of brand creation, which
Yeah.
elevates a product or a service into something that goes into the minds of customers and stays there for the long time,
Yeah.
long term rather.
True, true. So you basically create a lot of loyalty around any brand. So, people, I think now there's a lot of association, if you are following this particular brand, or you're carrying, or even a person now is a brand in himself. So if you're following a person, people are categorized now according to the brands they're inclined towards. So
Yes.
it's become a personality trait indication also. So
Yes, in
what,
fact,
like,
in this world where things have become so transient, in the
yes.
Insta age where you just like something and you forget it the next moment, a
Yeah.
brand is the only way that helps you survive for the long term. When people consistently recall you,
Yeah.
then you're constantly talking about people branding.
Yeah.
Technically, if I were to, at the cost of making it sound transactional, but even friendship, you remember a friend for a certain thing, right? In
True.
many ways,
True.
that's also a
Brand.
connection that you're making with the friend. Yeah, and that's the
Exactly.
connection that I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
that supersedes everything. That supersedes an Instagram reel, that supersedes the phenomenon of virality, that supersedes
True.
AI, really that supersedes everything. Then you bring
I
this you develop this long lasting connection with a brand or a person or all of those emotions that come with it. That's the
Yeah.
power of a brand.
Exactly. Like you said, it's very emotional also. Branding is an emotional
It
part.
is. It
Yeah.
is.
So, so why, who needs, like, who exactly you think needs branding, and why do they need to do this effort?
Yes. So anyone who is starting something um, with the intention of reaching out to another person, as simple as that. I will not even say
Hmm.
selling to another person, because that goes into the domain of marketing, and there is
Right.
a fine line between branding and marketing, right? Anybody who wants to communicate anything to another person needs a brand, as simple as that. Whether it's a personal communication, whether it's a professional communication, whether you're conveying your idea, whether you're conveying your product, whether you're conveying your service, whether you're conveying anything, like the moment you've been again saying a lot of personal brand, the moment you wear something, the moment you dress
Yeah.
up in a certain way, the moment you start speaking in a certain way, a brand is already starting great. You started it's already starts to get created, right?
Yeah. True.
Even if you're not consciously doing it, every time you interact, every time your product interacts with another customer, it starts creating a brand, so in a
Yeah.
sense, branding is not even a conscious, uh, it already starts happening even before you consciously start doing it, right? So
Yeah.
then it only makes sense that you infuse consciousness into it, you infuse intent into it, and make it more meaningful, because anyways it's getting created,
Yeah.
right?
True. So when a product comes to you, I'm sure you decide like which medium will be most impactful uh, for creating this brand. So do you suggest to go to all the mediums like print and social media and everything, or do you all restrict also
Okay.
a product from
So,
going on any other platform?
first of all, a brand exists irrespective of the medium, right?
Okay.
No matter
Hmm.
what the medium you are. So, medium is a much later, comes much
Stage.
later in the sequence.
Hmm.
Right? First, the
Okay.
moment it's like if a baby is being born, right? You will name the baby. You will start dressing the baby in a certain way. As the baby starts growing, the baby will start having a certain character or a certain personality. All of this comes in within the purview of creating a brand, right? How
Mhm.
are you positioning the brand? What is the purpose of the brand going to be? By purpose I mean the inner calling of the brand going to be. How is the what is the brand promise going to be all about? What is the brand consistently going to deliver? All of that comes in a brand creation stage, much
Right.
much before you are actually creating something tangible for the brand. The brand first has to be created in the brand owner's head. The brand owner
Right.
has to be extremely clear about what you want to talk about, and that's something that I talk about a lot, or that's something that I always have make an effort to educate people who are launching brands left, right, and center, or launching products left, right, and center. It's
Yeah.
something that you cannot be too casual about, that let me just launch something with any packaging, or let's say any name or anything that we have in mind, but we are not very sure of where this is headed. Let it get me some sort of traction, and then I will see about what happens with my brand. Sure, you can always make a formal arrangement later, but
Hmm.
you in your head should always know where you are taking your brand, why you have given birth to the brand, and where you want the brand to be. Like, I'll give you an
Right.
example.
Yeah.
Many sometimes clients come and say, if I ask them who is the target audience of your brand, some there are many people who say anybody and everybody can buy my brand, which is an
Mhm.
absolute no and goes absolutely against what a brand should be all about.
Yeah.
A brand has to sell to a specific person, and that's the clarity
Exactly.
I always request a brand owner to have, that if you don't know where you want to take your brand, to whom you want to take your brand, and how far
Yeah.
you want to take your brand, it's not possible. There's no point in then launching your brand, right? So that's the
Exactly.
first thing. So it's only after all this cloud gets cleared up that you start thinking of the medium of the brand, right?
Yeah.
First of
My
all, your
my question was a mix of this actually.
yes, yes,
Yeah. So you're rightly answering it. So yeah, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
yes. No, so that only. So the whole thing is that first of all, it has to be clear in the mind of the customer, and
Yeah.
second of all, it has to be articulated. Now, here again, there comes a huge difference, right? You may
Yeah.
think in your head that you are very clear, but that whole articulation exercise, right? So to the clients who come to us at a very early stage, right, we love to take them through an entire articulation exercise where we help them articulate their process, or
Mm.
their purpose, their brand purpose, or
Yeah.
articulate their what are you positioning your brand as, What is the promise going to be? How is your brand going to talk to people? What are the colors, or what are the personality of the brand going to be like? Till the time you, first of all, you think about it. But
Yeah.
there is a lot of refinement and definement that starts happening the moment you start writing it out, and you start putting it out there, and you start reviewing it, and start consistently seeing if it's exactly what it is, what you want it to be,
Yeah.
consistently co-imbibing. The brand imbibes from you, and you imbibe from the brand, right? So that entire, only after that entire head work is over, that you start thinking of where the brand should now start featuring, right?
Mm.
So it's a whole, I
True.
would say, this is of brand creation, this is a good 30-40% only. The first, this entire head exercise should happen. And even if it, for example, many times new brands may be constrained, there may be budget constraints, but
Yeah.
it still is essential that you do this exercise in your own mind, and write it for yourself, educate yourself on it, right? Of course, you can always engage a professional whenever you're ready, which may be initially or later, but it's
Yeah.
still advisable and highly, highly recommended that you conduct this exercise in your own mind, and in your own, wherever you would feel you want to write it down. If there are co-founders, jam about it, write about it, and then only step into the arena, right? So
Yeah.
that first, and then your medium comes into play. That, okay, am I, there are certain hygiene mediums, right? For example, today, website is a must, no matter
Yeah.
whether you're a B2B brand, B2C brand. If you're a
Yeah.
B2C brand, then your Insta and stuff starts becoming a hygiene brand. If you're a
Right.
B2B, then other social media such as LinkedIn and stuff. uh, some brands, if you're a more neighborhood focused brand, a leaflet becomes a must for you. You have to continuously communicate, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a Zomato, Swiggy will become a, important aspect for you. Print, of course, and all come much later, because those are also expensive mediums. And today
Yes.
digital comes as the first thought because it's most affordable.
Yeah.
But it's much, much later in the sequence of events, really. First is the clarity that you come in with, and then, of
Yeah.
course, the communication after
Yeah.
some of the basics are met.
Good, good. You put those points forward because, as a layman, you don't understand from where all this information about the brand is coming. You don't know the process that's gone. Like
Yeah.
there's so much that's been worked on.
Yeah.
So it's good that you clarified and gave a picture of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, how does a company or individual decide how much branding is necessary? Like you were just saying,
Yes.
how do we say that this much, we don't want to over project ourselves, or we want to control it? Do they do this?
Yes. Okay. I would answer it very simply as saying that every time you reach out to your customer, every
Hmm.
time you create a customer touch point, even if
Yeah.
it's a phone call that you're having with your customer, even that is a branding opportunity, right? We may think that, oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's just a phone call, but it's also the way you receive. Like, suppose if you've created a brand where your honesty or your transparency is a core value that you're bringing into your brand, if your phone call does not reflect it, right,
Yeah.
it has no meaning, right? So every single touch point of yours has to follow that. If you've made a mistake, it's good if you accept it on the phone call. It adds up to your brand image, it adds up to your brand value, right? And
True.
then suggest a way through that, okay, this is what has happened and this is the problem, and let's work it out like that, right? So I would say that every single touch point is a branding touch point, and hence there is nothing called as over exposure or over branding, right? In the sense of every time you're making a contact with the client, it's
Yeah.
it is a branding opportunity. So it makes sense to keep aligning with the brand, right?
Yeah.
Over branding is something, over exposure rather is something, I would say, that it may hardly, um, it's it's not that, in the sense of overexposure is not such a big problem, right? The whole
Hmm.
point being that, the as long as you know that every single time you're interacting, it's becoming a branding
Yeah,
opportunity.
you're conscious that you're creating this brand image.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it continuously becomes you consistently emphasize on the same point, and that's what continuously goes through, and that's what kind of adds up and creates your complete brand, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way that I think I would like to answer this one.
Yeah, true. No, that's true because we do get disappointed with many even customer services. We could be following someone, but just the customer service can disappoint you very badly. Yeah, and
Yes.
those marketing calls can really, put you down. And yeah, so every step I think a company takes in projecting itself is very crucial. And
Yes.
yeah, so there are so many brands and influencers, they're promoting various brands. So can these be misleading, or get can it give a negative image to a company?
I would again bring it down to the branding piece. Okay. So, for
Hmm.
example, going back to the similar example of an honest a brand where you believe that your core value is honesty, right?
Yeah.
It's very important to associate with the right influencer, an influencer who is known for being honest, right?
Right.
There is no point in giving it to an influencer who may have a lot of likes or numbers, etc., but may
Yeah.
not have such a clear or a clean or a very clear image in that sense. It's a
Yeah.
little dubious, right?
Yeah, so
Or
association of a.
association.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you have a quirky brand value and you like to experiment, you want to disrupt, that kind of
Yeah.
influencer is a perfect fit because little mystery is there.
Yeah.
And your brand, you want your brand to build with that mystery and to create that mysterious value, right?
True.
So different brands for different people, it's not about good or bad, right? But if a brand
Hmm.
is based on honesty, there is no point in alliancing with a mysterious influencer or influencer who's known to create everything about the influencer may not be known in a very planned sort of manner. So
Correct.
if you associate with the right influencer, I feel the right message goes through,
True.
right?
And the message you want to send through about your brand.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So again, it amplifies the message with the kind of person that you're talking. It continuously amplifies the message. So that's why having clarity about your brand, having clarity about your brand values, having clarity about what your brand is all about is important and plays out at really at every stage. You know
True. True. True.
that then it also makes your decisions easier, right? So when you're taking your decisions on the kind of influencer, you may
Yeah.
probably see that, okay, this influencer stands for these five values, and if they don't
Yeah.
overlap with you, or if the most of the values don't overlap with you, it's a very clear thing that you may not want to go ahead with that person. But if you find the right influencer, then it's a great plus for your brand and kind of takes it forward in the
V-
right way.
Very true. Very true. And for a layman, like I just would put this, like, is advertising and branding, are these in the same category, or do you separate them?
Yes. Uh, I'll go back to an earlier question that you had asked about the medium, right,
Yes.
of the branding to answer
Yeah.
this. So,
Yeah.
branding is a separate chapter of its own, right, which I spoke about, which is all about having that clarity in your head, which is all about articulating what your brand is with that clarity, right? Now, the
Right.
branding itself is an umbrella thing, is a mother thing that can have many offshoots, right?
Right.
With that brand in mind, you can choose different ways to reach out to your audience. One
Right.
such way is advertising, right?
Yeah.
Another one such way can be public relations, right?
Yeah.
The way your public relations are being created, the way you are creating your relationship with the public, etc.,
Right.
right? That also is governed by the branding, right? So it's
Yeah.
like branding is the mother or the parent, and then there are these different offshoots or these different communication mechanisms that are
Under
possible.
them. Hmm.
Advertising is one such mechanism, right?
Oh.
So advertising is primarily with the intent to persuade your audiences to buy something, right?
Yeah.
Which is what makes advertising different from a lot of content that goes out today, right?
Yeah.
So, for
Yeah.
example, we have heard of many B2B companies creating white papers, right? Or
Yes. Yeah.
generating a lot of LinkedIn communication to show themselves as thought leaders,
Yeah.
right? So this
True.
is not advertising. This is still aligned to branding because
Yeah.
that's the brand that I'm trying to speak about, or
Right.
that's the umbrella positioning that I'm consistently confirming back to. But it's not
Yes.
advertising has a very pure intention to just persuade people to try out your product and to buy your product,
Yeah. It's
right?
more sales, marketing oriented,
It is
maybe.
more marketing oriented. It is also a brand image oriented. It also helps you.
Hmm.
So even if I'm not buying your product, I'm
Yeah.
consistently adding up to the brand image. I'll give you an example of, let's say, a luxury brand, right?
Yeah.
I may not, so a Louis Vuitton, let's say, right? So I may not buy a Louis Vuitton bag the moment I see a Louis Vuitton ad, but something about the brand is getting created in my mind and getting added every time I see a Louis Vuitton ad, knowing
True.
that, oh, it's an aspirational brand, oh, it's an aspirational brand, oh, it's an aspirational brand, leading to maybe someday I may want to possess one,
That.
right?
Yeah.
It also adds up, it also creates the brand image consistently. So
True.
advertising has a twofold function, really, like that.
Good. Thanks for clarifying because we could get confused in these two things. So, what are the advantages of a good brand? Do you have some examples to share
I
of
will give
good
you the
brand
example.
stories?
Yes, definitely. Good stories only, first of all.
Yeah,
There are certain bad stories also, but maybe a good story will be a better
yeah. All
example.
stories we learn
Of,
something out of it. So,
yes,
good or
definitely.
bad, both are good.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So, a great example that I would love to give is Paper Boat. I'm sure you've heard of the brand.
Yeah,
At least in India, it was uh, at a time when it started, it consistently, created a lot of uh, excitement and a lot of
yes,
engagement among people. So, it was a brand. It's a brand of juices, right?
yeah.
Uh, Very clearly designed to target a certain age group, an age group that has become extremely nostalgic about the
Hmm.
times that it has enjoyed,
Yeah,
not to appeal to say a Gen Z or someone, because they may not relate, right? So really
yeah,
bringing that old time magic back, right?
yeah,
So for example, the way they branded themselves has been very exciting. They took the pains to first of all call it a name like that, a paper
yeah.
boat. In today's child, like I'm a parent to a 12-year-old, they don't even know what a paper boat is.
Exactly.
The
Yeah,
name
true.
itself, for example, starts creating that perception. Remember, we were
Yes.
talking about perception, how a brand is a perception. A juice is a juice is a juice at the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
But the moment you
true.
start calling it paper boat, and the moment you see that, oh, it's on a juice pack, already it starts creating different taste sensations in your mind. You start thinking of the, mango juices that you
I'm
used to have.
already thinking as you're saying this.
Yeah, that's really the
Yeah,
power.
I like the pani puri and all they had, some
Truly,
flavors were amazing.
truly, truly. So
Yeah,
that's the magic, and then they continue to amplify it with exciting stories, and
yeah,
throughout, every pack they have added a new story. With every
yes,
communication, they have added a new story, right? Another great example I can give you is Amul, right?
yeah.
Amul has been consistent like crazy,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Every
Very
time
good.
create some sort of excitement. If you realize, it's not making people buy anything, right? It's not like if I look at an Amul ad, I'll buy an Amul butter. So by now, their advertising is literally de-linked with the product. The
Yeah,
product let it do its own journey, but my advertising is keeping up the brand image of the thing of the
absolutely.
product, really,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Adding up to the product. So these are some great and very, very, I would say, very
Good brand
study
story.
examples. Yeah, yeah, very, very. Uh, what's the right word that I'm trying to look at? Like, examples that are always worth going back to, really, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
true.
as a bad example, I will not name a brand, but I would like to really bring out the case of a lot of new entrepreneurs who are struggling, right?
Hmm.
So
True.
they are not cognizant of what the requirements of a good logo might be, how they may be using a mix of fonts in different combinations in different
Yeah,
advertising, different, let's say, Instagram posts, right? Or the fact that they may be creating irrelevant content just in the bid to be frequent, just to be there on Instagram. If
true.
they are releasing anything, and I'm also saying this because there might be certain new entrepreneurs who are watching this, and it's like a personal mission. It's become a personal mission now, because it really hurts, right? Because they have such good products and such good
Yeah,
intent, but because of the lack of either knowledge or lack of awareness or lack of just a general lack of importance given to something like branding, they are actually ruining their brand. It's just a question of you knowing that, let me go with this, let me not mix it up, let me not
yeah,
just create something for the sake of creating, right? So that is a lot of long term damage that one does to the brand, and it's actually
yeah.
taking steps back. Whereas the right branding can really position you for much, much better and much more.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, there are some products that I don't remember them now, but sometimes when you see them being advertised in different forms, they give you a cringe, like you don't want to see
Yeah.
them. That's what my question was about this over branding and over trying to
Mm.
sell it too much. It becomes sometimes a deterrent in their own way.
True.
So
And
yeah,
this also will always happen when these products are not cognizant, when they've not thought of it as a brand. I
exactly.
always think that when
Hmm.
you've thought of something as a brand, it doesn't become an overexposure.
True.
Unless of course there are 100 posters of it in front of you, right? If done
Yeah,
right, it doesn't really, it never becomes an overexposure. It's always adding up. It's always consistently being emphatic about who you are as a brand,
yeah,
right? So
very
that's
true.
the thing.
Very true. Like recently, what I have seen the trend in, like, these web series, the OTT platform, like every web series also a brand in itself now, like if you consider it. So they have started dividing them, their web series into two, creating that image and, not putting it out there. There's a lot of intelligence going on behind how they want to position themselves and keep everyone interested and all of that.
True.
So
True.
yeah. So, thank you, Gunjan. These were my questions for you today, and thank you so much. But I know this topic is so interesting, and we can go on and on and on, and there's so much we can take out of you. But before you leave, do you have any message for our viewers, for anyone who's looking at branding themselves? What could you say to them?
I would be so happy to be able to get another platform to share this, because, as I said, it's like I'm literally on a mission to tell, anybody who's starting off, or whether whatever kind of business you have, is that, it's great enough that you have an idea that you want to take to the world, that you want to, make the world a better place to live in, right? But be extremely careful about how you are bringing it out to the world. If it's your baby, reveal it to the world very, very thoughtfully, in a very, very reflective manner. Do please spend time in educating yourself, whether it is through, videos like this, for example, or, there's a lot of material available on the net. Of course, sometimes I would agree that some of the material may be questionable and misguiding also, but
Yeah,
ensure that you're reaching out to the right people. Get mentoring, get guidance, and, create it first in your head, clarify it in your head. Because many times I have seen that, people just launch something for, because they want to finally just get going with it, and then we will think of branding later. Really, my request and recommendation is that give it some time, before you really bring the baby out to the world. Really, you know it's like the baby in the womb, right? Give it its time, right? Rather than being in a hurry to just launch it and take it forward. And nothing replaces the virtue of a good brand, even if it is a small measure. It always adds up. All of it really adds up, and all of it really, helps you take your story forward in a beautiful way. So, do not take it lightly, and be extremely reflective and thoughtful about how you present the brand to the world. So, very, very important.
yeah. Thank you so much. They were like really intelligent anecdotes, and I'm sure it's going to help so many. So thank you so much, Gunjan, for your time today, and hopefully we see you again on this platform whenever we have another topic that we can discuss.
I'll be so happy to do that, Anandji. Thank you very much for having me today. As I
Thank
said,
you.
I am always delighted to be on such platforms and share, whatever I can with anybody who can benefit from it. So thank you again for giving me
It
this.
was amazing interacting with you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure
Yeah.
entirely.
See you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you guys for joining us today. So that was Gunjan Pai. I'm sure everything that she said today clarified so many of my own doubts. I'm sure it's going to help you guys. So go ahead, think a lot about what you want to put there in the world and take these tips from Gunjan. You can get connected to her on her LinkedIn profile, her Instagram, and maybe Facebook. I'm not sure, but LinkedIn, she's very active. So please get in touch with her. Thank you for your time today. We'll see you next week with another interesting topic and another interesting guest. Bye.